Concerns around Tesla are picking up speed after the EV maker's first quarter delivery numbers left investors questioning if additional price cuts would be necessary to drive sales. For more on the outlook for the auto space, we're joined by Cox Automotive senior economist and senior director of industry insights, Charlie Chesbrough. Charlie, great to have you here. First, what is this signal about not just the EV market as a whole and where consumer pickup is taking place, but whether or not it's taking place at a lower price and what that means for the competitive landscape?
Well, we just got March sales in, and they looked fairly strong across the industry. There appears to be strong demand out there from consumers for EVs and basically everything that we can see, regardless of these high interest rates. And so I think that does spell good news for the industry, that if we do see a bit of a slowdown in the economy later this year, it's hard to point to anything in the data right now to suggest that we're starting to see a slowdown in vehicle sales and that consumers may be able to withstand these high rates and slowing economy and still buy these vehicles.
How much in terms of price cuts is left in the bag? Can Elon pull out of a hat if necessary, if it comes to that? And how does that affect the other auto players in the mix in the EV race?
Well, certainly we know that they have some production advantages and that they can, they've said that they can make some substantial savings with some of their production nuances that they have that some of their competitors do not. But I don't know how much more leeway that there really is. I mean, Tesla needs to get certain margins from these vehicles in the U.S. Investors are expecting it. And I don't know that there's much need right now for Tesla to cut their vehicle price, because I don't know that that's really the obstacle right now. I think consumers are still getting used to these EVs. They're trying to understand electric vehicles. They're worried about charging stations. So I think that there's still a lot of education that has to go on out there for consumers to really start gobbling up Tesla's EVs or anybody else's. And certainly the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed last fall, is going to have huge implications for the electric vehicle market. And we're still trying to understand what those cost implications may be in terms of how those rebates are applied.
So in this interim period of time where consumers are still waiting for more details or at least proof that there's going to be a larger, widespread network of charging stations available, how does that place more emphasis among the consumption and the number of buyers out there on the battery for each of these electric vehicles and where they're prioritizing how good of a battery one manufacturer has versus the other in the range of that battery?
Well, and I think that's an excellent question. I think consumers don't really understand what are the questions we should be asking when we're looking at buying an electric vehicle. Normally when we bought a gasoline vehicle, we didn't really ask too much about how far can I go on a tank of gas. But that's probably the most important question that consumers are asking around electric vehicles is how far can they go on a charge? And so I think that, again, that's one of the areas that the industry really has to educate consumers as to what their needs are going to be. Because we know that electric vehicles in general don't travel much over 300 miles. Some of the fancier ones and the ones that you pay up for have some of those features. But for most consumers, just being able to get around town and 200-300 miles may be plenty, maybe all that they need for range. But they don't know that yet. So again, that's one of the areas that consumers need to be educated about.
Well, when it comes to demand, a lot of that comes to affordability and the ability to take on new loans. And I'm reading your notes here. The average loan rate for a new vehicle edging toward 9%, listing prices above $47,000. At what point do consumer credit implications have a negative effect on here? I'm not necessarily asking for a repeat or your comparison to 2007, 8, and 9, but that's the most obvious example when we saw credit strains here. So what is that like, and how does that affect the demand picture down the line with these elevated interest rates?
Well, one of the interesting things in the new vehicle market is a lot of those folks that would be very detrimentally hurt from these higher interest rates, your more subprime folks, your lower income buyers, they left the new vehicle market back in March of 2020. When COVID first struck, we lost a whole bunch of folks that were more of the lower FICO score buyers out of the new vehicle market. They could no longer afford these products. They had to move into the new vehicle market. And the industry pulled back significantly on incentives that would help get those folks into those products. And so that's really changed the landscape as to who remains in the new vehicle market is a higher FICO score, a higher income, more affluent buyer, they're able to withstand these higher interest rates. And that's why we've seen interest rates rise so substantially in the new vehicle market over the last year, and yet vehicle sales are up on a year-over-year basis. And so I don't think that the industry is quite as vulnerable today as we were back in 2007, 2008, because we've already lost a lot of the folks that we lost in the early days of the Great Recession. So if we do have a hit to the vehicle market this year, we've been telling folks that it's going to be more like falling off of a curb than falling off of a cliff.
Okay, I want to kind of pair what we've been talking about with Tesla with some of the legacy automakers here, because we've got numbers from Ford and GM. GM, of course, they put their off to a great start release details out there. More than 20,000 EVs that they've been able to start the year off with sales of. And then on Ford's side, looking through some of their numbers, they were able to see 10,000, nearly 11,000, 10,866 to be exact there, vehicles sold, electric vehicles sold in the first quarter of 2023. You know, as we think about how they're ramping up production, ramping up deliveries and sales ultimately, what is going to be the biggest selling factor or differentiator between these auto manufacturers, as the legacies are going to talk about, you know, what their targets are to get to 2 million by 2026 for Ford, and up against Tesla, who's been doing this and has brought the sexy component to EVs to the best extent that you can?
Well, I think for Ford, it all hinges on this F-150 Lightning. That's going to be their key product out there for the electric vehicle market. If consumers embrace those products and they can work out the kinks that they've had in production so far, that could be a real game changer for the industry, because certainly pickup trucks are an important product for the Detroit 3 and certainly the big segment here in the North American market. And if Ford has an EV solution for that, that could be a real game changer for them. But as I said, they haven't quite worked out all the kinks yet. And we don't know that the buyers out there have fully embraced these things. There's all kinds of talk about stated miles, stated ranges that you're going to get for the vehicle, but you don't get those same stated ranges when you're towing, 3,000 pounds, or it's, negative 10 degrees outside. So there's a lot of factors that can mitigate the range on that EV battery. And I think for pickup truck buyers that are using these products for, heavy duty construction or work related, real task oriented work, they need to know exactly what these vehicles are capable of.
So in the search data, when somebody is originating a search and it is, for an electric vehicle, do you see that they're within the data that they're looking for any opportunity to kind of optimize what that experience is looking like, whether that be in kind of more battery power so that they can go farther, whether that be in a sport package, or, even opting into the heated seats at the end of the day? What does that search look like when someone's initiating it for an electric vehicle?
Well, I think one of the first things they're searching on is, can I get the $7,500 credit for this, or the rebate from the Inflation Reduction Act? And certainly price is the key ingredient when folks are looking at EVs. Is this something that I can afford? Is it in my wheelhouse? And so that's certainly an important factor. But right up there as well is the range of this product. How far can I go on this product? And I think one that doesn't get much attention, but I think as consumers get more and more savvy about electric vehicles, they're going to want to understand residual values. And how much of my value will this vehicle maintain over the course of its life?
Right.
Electric vehicles are relatively new. And with all of these rebates that are being implemented by the government, that's going to have a detrimental effect on residual values a few years from now. So I think that's an area that consumers are going to start asking about as well.